Tá. Wait a minute, hang on, not getting any audio yet. Has the MUA meeting started? Ed, you can't hear us.
You should be able to hear us now.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear
Can't
you.
hear us now? Okay, let's start. This regular meeting of the Vernon Township Municipal Utilities Authority, May 19th, 2022 will now convene. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this regular meeting was provided to the public and the press on December 27th, 2021 by delivering to the press such notice and posting same at the municipal building and filed with the office of the MUA as well as posted on the website. All rise and salute the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
justice for all.
All right. We have a new commissioner that needs to be sworn in, Mark Bauer. Rich, are you there to swear in our new member?
I am, Mr. Chair. Happy to do so. Mr. Bauer, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mark Bauer,
I, Mark Bauer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States.
and in this state,
Sorry,
and in this state.
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
and that I will faithfully,
That I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office of
all the duties of the office of
VTMUA Commissioner, alternate number 2,
VTMUA Commissioner Alternate Number 2,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Okay, we have a roll call of members and professionals.
Paul Carney.
Present.
Andrew Pitzker.
Present.
David Pickett,
Here.
Kristen Wheaton. Present. Ed Snook is absent. Ed DeYoung.
Present.
Mark Bauer.
Present.
Okay, this time I'd like to open the meeting to the public for agenda items only.
Motion to open up the meeting for public comments on agenda items only.
By Andy, seconded by Mark. Seconded,
Second.
yes. No one in the gallery. Do we have anybody online?
We have nobody online wishing to speak.
Okay, somebody make a motion to close the public.
I'll make a motion to close the public speaking time.
Second that.
Second by Andy.
Favor?
Aye.
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 Hey, approval of the bill. Somebody make a motion to approve resolution 2228, approval of the bills. We have a chance to look at the bills.
Yeah, I did. I
As did I.
found everything in order.
And if so, does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
I see things relating to cell phones, like purchase of an OtterBox and such as that. And perhaps somebody can explain what this is about.
So our employees have cell phones. We use them specifically for the Sentinel systems that we have. So they relay alarms from all of the stations, lift stations, pump station to the phones. So we needed a new phone. I think the last time that phone was purchased was probably 5 years ago. So we purchased a new phone and we needed a new OtterBox for it so it doesn't get destroyed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have a question regarding item number 220055, which is the township current for the DPW work.
Yeah.
What's the rate now? Do we know?
The hourly rate?
Yeah.
It depends on the individual working. So it's whoever is covering.
Okay.
Most of the time we use the lowest guy on the totem pole.
Okay. The other questions? Someone make a motion to approve the bills.
Make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Motion by Dave,
Which is resolution number 22-28.
yes.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Kristen,
Andrew Pittsger,
Yes,
Dave McDermott,
Yes,
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Ed DeYoung,
Yes.
Paul Carney.
yes. Approval of the minutes from 4/21/22.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that this be tabled to the next meeting, as I have some comments I have some corrections to make, which I would like to write down.
Fine with me.
So are you making a motion to table?
Making a motion to table the approval of the minutes
I'll second that motion.
from 4/21.
Paul Carney.
Yep.
Andrew Pittsger,
yes,
Dave McDermott,
yes,
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Ed DeYoung.
Yes.
Motion to approve the executive minutes from 4/21/21.
Oh, 3/17/22.
Where am I? Oh, sorry, 3/17/22.
motion to approve executive meeting minutes from 3/17/22.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Pittsger,
Yes,
Mr. McDermott,
Yes,
Ms. Wheaton,
Yes.
and people that were present.
Okay. Resolution 22/27, review of EDU calculation for property located at 2 Chamonix Drive.
discussion,
Perhaps
okay,
somebody can explain how the EDU projection was attained.
that's for Steve Bendowski,
Yes, Steve.
who's our engineer, who I have a question for regarding that.
Sure. So, you want me to, go through this, Donnell?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the, we're talking about minerals, correct?
Yep,
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
okay. So they have a space which is currently, let's call it outfitted as, I believe it's 3 tennis courts. Which say on occasion they host, say weddings and other events in there currently. But for the current EDU calculation, that area is not treated separately. Like the spa is a separate calculation there, but that area is not treated separately. As far as the EDU calculation, only the EDU calculation for that property is really just based on the number of hotel rooms. Now that they're proposing a project to basically permanently convert that space from the current tennis court use, which is sometimes used as, meeting facilities or wedding facilities, to permanently change that to a more of a, I'm drawing a blank for the correct word, but more of a
Conference center?
conference
Event
center,
space.
banquet type center. And so they would be putting in, a relatively large permanent kitchen, permanent bars, restrooms, et cetera, in the current tennis court area. So if you consider that space separate from the, just the pure hotel calculation for EDUs, and consider that there's a little over 400 seating for a little over 400 proposed on their plans that they submitted for building permits, and using the EDU calculation for a catering or banquet hall, that comes out to the 32 EDUs.
This is based on some kind of an engineering formula that makes various assumptions about the number of people, how much water or how much sewage each person generates, how much sewage the restaurant operation generate based on square footage or something
Yes, that's correct. So in the VTMUA regulations, they have flow criteria or flow projections for all sorts of different, uses, hotels, banquets, restaurants, residential, et cetera, which is based on guidelines published by the NJDEP. Correct. Yes.
So the EDU calculation is an engineering estimate based on various formulas, based on various assumptions,
That is correct.
at which, and it can't be better than those assumptions. Is that so?
Those assumptions are pretty much standard for the industry in New Jersey.
I'm not challenging the math or the formulas. I'm simply trying to get a concept of how they can be verified to be accurate, if they can be verified to be accurate, or the entire accuracy is, this is your standard formula. We use the standard formula. The math is right. There's nothing to discuss. If that's the way it works, I can understand that. I'm just trying to get a grasp.
Yeah, so, and this gets into a little bit, and to some level, the whole, pluses and minuses of using the EDU systems, which is based on, a whole list of, like 30 different uses and each getting their EDUs.
Right.
Yes, that's as accurate a projection as one can provide without actually metering your flow.
Let me ask you this, because I'm trying to look forward to the future of Vernon rather than backwards, as how the EDU system was imposed and created. Is there any reason other than a few $100s in plumbing costs that when the water is taken, the water main is taken to feed the restaurant or the restrooms, whatever else is using water and creating sewage in this former tennis court, that a simple meter can't be installed on the incoming water supply so we know how much water is being utilized to the gallon with precision rather than guesstimates, formulas?
I think I can
and
answer
assumptions.
that. Everyone has to be billed the same way on the sewage. We cannot, and some people that are on the sewer system are also on their own wells. Most people that have their own wells or buildings have their own wells, that water's not metered. So for us to meter water going to some places and not others, it can't do that. Everything, I think by law, has to be uniform in the manner in which we bill. Because all the water going in isn't metered, we can't use that for what's coming out.
I'm not trying to start up a whole big thing about the
you're not.
EDU system, but I am trying to look forward as to how it may be improved. And it strikes me that if it would be reasonable economically, plumbing wise, material wise, whatever, to install a meter now that something that doesn't exist is being constructed, that gives us a leg up for future usage. I can tell you that it's about 75% of the MUA's business comes right out of Great Gorge Village, where we have 1,445 units. Every single one of them is metered. So we're starting with 75% meters on day one. Now here comes a big user. Why not put in a meter? Now we're up to 77, 78% without looking at all of the rest of the MUA service area.
Legally, we cannot bill one group one way and another group off another.
I'm not saying we should change the billing. I'm saying we should look forward to how we might be able to change the billing in the
Sure, that's-
future. And here you have a great opportunity to get a leg up on something that doesn't exist. So it's not going to be a big deal where you have to do retrofitting and ripping out pipes or anything. Just
I think,
put it in.
I think the point here that the chairman was making is that we would not be permitted to request and require a meter to be installed on minerals in order for this application to go through. We can't do that. And we have to if you're going to put a meter on somebody, you have to put them on everyone. And I think that I think everyone hears what you're saying, but I think that discussion can maybe be had a little bit later into the new business, because we have the discussion with short-term rental ED discussion and senior vet discussion. I think that leads into that, but I don't think I'm not sure about.
I don't think this is related to this.
specific
Yeah,
ED
you're
allocation.
talking legalities. I'd like to just get a line from the engineer. Is what I have in mind feasible as a inexpensive plumbing thing that will give us a real handle on water usage with precision rather than guesswork?
But it's not, I'm sorry, I just want to say, as a CFO, it's not inexpensive. It will not be inexpensive. And there are specific types of meters. You're not talking about a traditional water meter. And you also have to consider people don't just, the water that comes in is not necessarily the water that goes out into the sewers.
I understand. Some
So
gets
it's a
lost to
But it's a
evaporation.
different, it's a
plant
different
water.
type of meter, and it's a more costly meter. And we do have the engineer, Steve and James are both working on estimates to what it would be, because the board requested at the last meeting, the cost estimates for that. So we will have that and we'll provide that as soon as the engineer has those numbers ready.
Because I mean, it was mentioned at the last meeting from people that were here, also amongst ourselves, and after them, we decided, let's get some pricing and see what it's all about.
Yeah, I'd like to see numbers.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, there's no answer to the question until we get that information.
Understood.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Appreciate you indulging my
No,
tantrum.
no, it's not a tantrum. It's not a tantrum at all.
Okay, and I have a question I wanted to bring up here. Steve, on page 2 of your documentation, in the back, you have it's minerals resort sewer service allocation. Going through the calculations,
Yes.
have 112 rooms at 75 gallons per day per person, which comes out to a flow rate of 84,000. And then I see in the comments, and the comments is what I'm questioning here. We have 39 total for minerals is 72.75 EDUs instead of 53. What is the 53?
Hang on, I'm trying to open up that document.
Okay,
Bear with me for a second. So some of that was, hang on, it'd be easy if I just had it open, which I don't know why it's not working here. Okay, bear with me 1 second here, Andy, I apologize.
yeah, no problem. I didn't expect you to have read your thumbs.
Okay, give me 30 more seconds. Okay, now I'm in. So, let's see here. Sorry, my computer is making it difficult for me, but here, I'm going now. So, I got it
I
here.
didn't mean to make it a trick question.
No, I just want to make sure I'm not going too much off the cuff here with my answer. I want to make sure I'm answering you correctly, Andy. So, all right, it's opening now. Second page, you said.
Yes.
So, and you're talking about the 112 and the 65 and that calculation, Andy?
The one it says 25 March 21, it says existing sewer
Yep.
service. Yeah, and then it's under the comments.
Yeah, so basically what I was doing there is, and yeah, I can understand why this is confusing. All I was doing there is I was exactly copying what was on page 3, just so it's all on one page. So that is basically a copy of the documentation or the records, I guess you can say, from 2012. I forget the exact date on that.
2012.
So total for minerals is 72.75 EDUs. I don't know what that 53 is, Andy, because I was just copying that from that third page.
Okay, maybe you can
Sorry,
look
I don't
into
have
that
the
and just
answer.
tell me what that means. All right, only question I have. The calculations on table 2 look fine to me.
Yeah, the table 2 United Water customers, this was from 2012.
Very good.
I think there was a previous calculation that had it at 53 for some reason, and I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion on resolution 2227? I want to make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve resolution 22-27.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Andrew Pittsger,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Ed DeYoung,
Yes.
Paul Carney.
Yes. Resolution 22-29, authorizing the Vernon Township Municipal Utilities Authority to execute a shared service agreement between the Township of Vernon and the Vernon Township Municipal Utilities Authority for the provision of PW services.
This is just just to make it clear, so this is just an extension of what we've done in the past, and we do them annually. This should have been done back.
Yes, right. Will you make a motion?
Discussion between this one and the shared service agreement. Do we have the cost structure that's involved in this? In other words, the hourly,
It's an hourly rate based on, again, who is available. So the original agreement, this is just an extension of that. The original agreement states that we use the lowest guy who's qualified on the totem pole to come over, who would be available.
and are those numbers and rates available? And that includes also fringe benefits as well. There's a total count.
The only fringe benefits that are included are Social Security and Medicare,
Okay, and that's all.
correct?
But can you give me a rough number what it is now? An hourly rate that we pay?
For 1 second, and I will get you that. About 19 an hour,
19 an hour plus fringe, and
correct?
so that additional is another 30%.
No,
No,
not even close.
How much?
Not even close. No, you're probably paying, let's say $20 an hour.
thank you.
And again, that's the lowest rate.
That's the lowest rate. All right, very good. Thank you.
Want to make a motion?
I will motion to approve resolution 21-29.
Get a second,
I'll
please.
second that motion.
Andrew Pittsger,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Ed DeYoung,
Yes.
Paul Carney.
Yes.
Oh, that would be me on next administrative
Yes.
report.
So we're gonna skip 10 for now. Go back to that a little bit. We're gonna go to the reports. So,
Okay.
Administrator report. No?
I just put Howie on. He's calling by phone, so.
Okay,
I'll go through mine first. So we met with the DEP and iBank last Tuesday. So we've been, held up by the DEP since December on our pump station 2 request. And I had reached out to Mary at iBank and basically said, what's going on, this is a real issue. So that was forwarded up to Dave Zimmer, their head at iBank. So he reached out to DEP. So they were nice enough to give us updates. I think it was a productive meeting. We're supposed to be meeting every 2 weeks now moving forward to make sure that this gets done. So that being said, I spoke briefly with their finance side at iBank. So they sent everything over to the DLGS for approval. So like the ability for the town to take out the debt has been approved through the DLGS to take out through iBank, but we're just, waiting on all of the approvals for the DEP. So it's kind of like a step that had to be done. But usually they wait to do it, but she was nice enough to come.
so it's looking
forward with that.
good.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
That whole process so far has pushed our project back based on the timeline that.
It's 6 months
5 months. So now we're probably will not be to have pump station 2 up and operational until April
next year. Yep.
2023. Okay,
And that's if you get what, once everything's in place.
Right. Yes. So that's pump station 2, the sewer service area mapping. So Dewberry sent over the shape files to the DEP for their review for final consideration. They did reach back out. I had to clarify some things from them. It's still in review and we're just waiting for updates from the DEP. They were reaching out to their guy who handles endangered species on their end. And hopefully we'll get a meeting with them soon. The transfer station, no update on that. Other than I, applied for the funding, for the feds to maybe cover that. That would be fantastic to get funding for that. But we're still working obviously with Wind River and Mount Creek and Dewberry to get moving on, permitting for that.
Is there any other planning we can do ahead of time as far as getting plans put together, drawings?
For the transfer station.
Yeah.
So the last time, I just had a conversation with Dave Bauer, I want to say like 3 weeks ago. And he sent us some specifics, but I think, Steve, we need to really like firm up what we need from them as far as like drawings so that we can get on permitting. I'm not.
Yeah, so, and I'll just add that what they need at this point as far as, for the transfer station, transfer station is becoming a little bit of a misnomer at this point. In that it's becoming like a small treatment plant. So it's kind of evolving from where where this started. So, it's becoming kind of a much different item than what we were originally envisioning, which I think was more than most people were originally envisioning. But this is what they say that is required for it to be successful for them. So it's just kind of some information that needs to be digested a little bit more and make sure that the MUA is aware of what their kind of long-term obligations would be as far as operations and maintenance of this infrastructure.
Steve, what are the treatment parameters other than, I saw grease, what other ones were they looking at?
Well, I mean, that's the primary thing, I guess I could say, or I guess I would say. We need to look at the information they sent over a little bit closer, which we can do what we haven't done yet. And the grease, say for example, the grease is something that they cannot bring to SCUMA currently. SCUMA does not, have the treatment train, I guess you can say, or I don't know, yeah, the treatment to accept that. So that is like the key item for them right now.
Could I just ask how this came back to be a project that we're looking at? We evaluated it last year. And I guess, if we were to go through the minutes, I believe the conclusion was that it was not, well, first we weren't getting support from Wind River, but also we discussed the permitting aspects of it as being potentially difficult because of the pre-treatment requirements that would be necessary to satisfy SCUMA and get the permits for significant industrial user or significant indirect user from DEP. So I don't recall, maybe I missed it, discussing as a board that this was going to be back among the projects that we would be pursuing, the quote unquote transfer station /
Pump station too.
I know we just, yeah, right. We talked about it when we were putting the plans together, pump station too.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's something good to put on our wish list for, funding opportunities. I thought we had discussed it and we're not going to pursue it.
I thought it was put on the back burner. I think if you and me we were talking about
It was
it.
you and I on
Yeah.
the pump station too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it came back into play a little bit. I mean, I see this more as exploratory based on potential from iBank
Uh-huh.
and what we could feasibly get from iBank and whether it's something worth our while to do. I don't think this is something that's written in stone. We're going to do this. I think this is still exploratory. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, now that already, you know, a singular treatment process is getting thrown in there. I mean, that's work, that's man hours, that's disposal of in another way, which is all incurred costs. So you can start going backwards quickly on certain things like that. I mean, that grease is one parameter. I don't know what other ones are looking for. Each parameter you have to treat for exponentially gets more and more expensive. And everything you treat for, there's disposal. And when you're taking it out of sewage, it's hazardous. So I mean, we could continue to look at it. But my opinion is once we get the full picture of what we would have to do, and then see what iBank is able to do, then we'd have to determine if it's something that we really want to do, if it's feasible, if it's worth our while. Because I mean, the only thing, it's the absolute positive is the increased flow and the fees we would collect to, and that could be, you know, a decent amount, but that's speculative too. So.
Hey, Paul, this is Ed DeYoung. I think this came up at the, when the MUA gave a briefing to the council, probably back in February, I think it was, and the council brought this up and asked us to explore this.
Yeah, that was part of it too.
Right.
It was brought up at the council meeting. You're
Right.
correct. And I think that's kind of what triggered us looking at it again.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile project to look at.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it is fine. And like I'm saying, to me, this is all exploratory. And if it comes back that it's not financially feasible, then that's what we'll let the council know.
Right, that's a different story. Yeah.
Right.
I believe, Steve, you'd made a presentation on this maybe last year, or at least, we had a conversation. You had looked into it to some extent. I don't know if we have a memo.
We reached out to, he reached out to DEP, just like an exploratory kind of thing to see if this would fly with the DEP. And their concerns were, one, that this could possibly be taking waste from outside of the Upper Wallkill region. And I'm not sure if they said specifically, but it seemed that like SCUMA wouldn't, they were concerned that SCUMA might not allow that. But I checked with SCUMA, and SCUMA has no way right now of knowing where waste comes from when it reaches their facility. There's no
Right.
check, there's nothing that says that, right? So that's to the side. Their other concern was a language concern, that in the regulations, it says that that this is for sewage and not for septage. But ultimately, if you take
Same thing.
any wastewater, right, and you treat it the same thing. So for example, pool water, right now, pool water is not allowed to be discharged into our sewage system. Right. But there are obviously pools in town that are connected to the sewage system. That water has to be treated in order for it to be considered typical sewage water, wastewater, and put into our sewer system. This would be the same type of thing. So you would be treating septage, or you'd be treating grease trap waste, and the resulting wastewater would be the same thing as sewage. I mean, financially, in conversations with the board, it seems like a good thing to at least explore.
And
I
that's,
agree.
And in conversations, and I think what held up things last year, really, I'd say like year and a half, is that there wasn't much conversation back and forth with Wind River. It was very difficult to get a hold of them. It seems that that's like the opposite now. They are very willing to communicate and move on something like this. The idea was to not have the capital expense be at the expense of the users or of the township, that it would be at the expense of specific vendor is not the word I'm looking for. Business.
you know,
I did apply for federal funding for it, because if we could get federal funding for it and make it that much faster, then
Yeah,
right?
and that's kind of how I see this whole thing. It's exploratory again, you know. We looked at it in the past, stopped for a while. The request came to look again. We're looking again, and certain parameters obviously have changed. And there's no harm in looking and seeing what we come up with. If it's something we all agree is good, then maybe we go forward with it. If we all agree that it's not the right thing to do at this point in time, we don't do it. And we just let the council know our reasons why.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, you know, what the deliverable is that we're working on. I guess I'd like to suggest that we get a memo from Dewberry, or that Donnell and Dewberry work together to put together a memo on, on where we stand, what are the questions that we have to answer in order to,
Yeah, we can do that. That's a good idea.
so that we know the trail,
Because one thing I think is important is having a good recognition of what the long-term operations and maintenance requirements would be. So we can, make sure that's, documented and known to everyone.
And I know, even though I'm not on the sewer end outside of here, but I know a lot of people who are. Like, the grease in the sewer system that's just by, you know, and SCUMA doesn't want it. That's like a big thing to deal with, coming in. It attaches to everything. It almost becomes like concrete and on your infrastructure. So I understand why they don't want it if they can't treat it. And it's just something that the maintenance on our system with the grease coming through and us having to deal with it, it might not be that bad, but it could end up being extensive. And I think that information is something that we were going to have a good idea of what kind of work is going to be involved on a continuum.
Just to kind of help that along, Steve, I always talk about project schedules, but maybe this should have a project outline, so it kind of describes what we're trying to do here instead of just one line about what we're talking about. It's a transfer station.
Yep.
So that maybe if we all had a project outline, get Kristen's input, get everybody's input, or what you have, so we understand it completely, what we're looking at.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense to everybody else?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, we included the capital item updates. Just two things regarding the rehab of Pump Station 3 building. We're awaiting the state certification from the vendor. He applied for it, but we're just waiting for that copy. So once we get that, then we can finally schedule that rehabilitation to happen. And then we're also waiting for Elizabethtown Gas. They currently have the plans for our generators, but they're waiting. Their engineers are reviewing those plans because they're used to attaching meters to like a building. So with a new line, there's obviously no building. So they just have to, figure out a way how they're going to attach a meter to it and meter it so that they can bill us for the gas for the generators.
Have the pads been installed for the generators yet?
No, because they need to find out exactly where they're putting the lines. We're not going to put in the pads until they approve where they're going to go.
Okay.
And that's it for me. Unless anyone has any questions.
I do have a question.
Okay.
My pet peeve is the last one, drainage ditch. It's spring. What's the story?
They just finished clearing the easements over by Pump Station 1.
Okay,
So now that those are cleared, I'll reach out to James that he can go over there. So because we needed the actual easements cleared before it was just a path.
okay. Because I don't want to see the vegetation get any higher, so we can see the ditch.
I have that on my to-do list to reach out to James to come and visit
Thank you.
soon. Yep.
Okay. Operator report, Howie.
There he is. Hi, Howie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I was unmuted, but I guess I had to hit star six as well. Well, let's just, we'll start with pump station one. Like Danell said, the easement is all cleared from the police station, well, the PAL, all the way to pump station one. We cleaned the ditch line as well. Just waiting to see what extent with the pipe or, you know, what has to be done exactly with those ditch lines. Even with this hard rain, Andy, with worrying about that, there has nothing been eroded any different than what it's been for the last couple of years.
Okay.
All right. So with that, you know, like I said, pipe will definitely help it, but it's not doing any more damage, not even with the hard rain. Pump station two, all good on that side. Danell, pump station three, I did speak with Jackie just the other day, and I believe from what we were waiting for the contractor, it's
Yeah.
on hold. Because I guess he got rejected, the first one.
Yeah, I think he answered one of the questions incorrectly, so I think he's resubmitting it to the state, yep.
But that's it. The guys have to start maintaining it, landscaping on all the stations. Lift stations there. I guess everybody knows whoever lives in Vernon, all our power went out last week. I had the guys come in just to make sure that the lift stations were holding. So just in case we had to put the generator on. We did have a call April 29th from PD that comment called for a clog on Telluride. They ended up having a party and there was a toy stuck down in the clean out. The boys got it unclogged. And that's it.
A toy.
A toy?
Yes, a toy. They had a party.
Danell, the tour we took with the gentleman a couple of weeks ago to the lift stations and made some recommendations about the lift stations. Should we put that on the capital list for upgrades of the lift stations in the future? Start thinking about
Yeah,
that.
we could do that. Mhm.
I'm thinking that at least we start evaluating those since they're 40 years old now. We took a tour of the lift stations and as he said, they're operational, but they're going to be needing work. So, and some of them probably need to be enlarged. We may want to put that on the capitals list for the future.
Is there funding for that? Got grant funding or do we?
Don't know, have to
Yeah.
look into it.
Yeah.
Howie, any other concerns?
No, I do have the boys they're starting to pre-maintenance or, you know, they're going through the condos and starting to pop open the manholes from the top down just to see how we look and if there's any buildups. Just a little bit of preventive maintenance going through there.
Do we do a manhole check and go through all the manholes during this time of the year?
We have done that in the past, but I don't think we ever got through all of them.
That's something we should look at.
Yes, I have them doing that now with the maps and marking them off as they go through.
I think that's something that should be done yearly. I mean, all the lines, easements walked, manholes checked. That should be at least a yearly thing.
Steve, is there any
Yes, like I said,
processes sorry, Howie.
No, like I said, we've done that in the past and we've marked down, like you just said, some of the trouble spots when I was on there and just, you know, we kept an eye on the manholes that had the trouble spots or the buildups.
Steve, is there any process that we have established for manhole inspections?
Is there a process? Not
Checklists, anything like that?
Yeah, certainly it's and there's checklists available that can be used. Yes. I don't know that the MUA has that currently, but that and things like that do exist. Yes.
Yeah, I think that if we don't have something like that, we need to develop something like that. This way we have documentation of inspections.
Yep.
You know, of it and, you know, something you can refer back to if need be.
Yep, you can, key the manhole designations to mapping and make sure you're looking at the same one and make sure it's consistent year to year and all that stuff. Yes.
We can do that. Working on that.
Yeah, okay, very good. Anything else, Howie?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
which brings us to the engineer report, which a lot already. Steve. What else you got for us?
Yeah, I don't have too much to add that we haven't discussed already. Yeah, I really don't have, pump station 2, sewer service area, minerals, transfer station. I don't really have much to add about things that we've already discussed unless someone has any questions.
Very good. Oh, now let's go backwards. Go to new business. Subcommittee discussion. My list, I'm not sure how up to date it is, but some of the people on the subcommittees are no longer on,
The MUA.
yeah, no longer on the MUA. So we could go through these, touch on them quick. And maybe assign people, move people around, whatever everybody feels is the best way to go with this. Start with the financing subcommittee. That would be Andy, correct?
Right now, I think it's myself and Danell.
It's you. Yep.
Just me, right? That's something we've been taking care of back and forth.
Yes.
Seems to work. Does anybody else want to be on the finance?
No takers. Nobody loves finance.
I'm not a money man.
So Ed and Mark, as we go through these subcommittees, I'll run through them first. There's the transfer station, pump station 2 upgrade subcommittee, sewer service area subcommittee, solid waste subcommittee, bylaw personnel subcommittee, water supply subcommittee, and financing subcommittee. So as we go through them, if there's something specific that you would like to be a part of, just
Hey, Paul,
shout
I
it out.
would, I'd have an interest in the finance committee with Andy and Donnell.
Very good.
So do I.
Oh,
Yeah.
we can't have 3. We
Can't
can't
have,
have,
okay.
only because it's a quorum.
Yeah.
But we'll update on the website on first page, you'll see all the subcommittees. So then it'll say replace Harry Shortway with
Mark Bauer. No, with Ed.
Ed asked first.
Yeah. My mistake. Yep, Ed.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, yep. So as you were saying, Andy, I rudely interrupted you. I rudely interrupted you as you were.
No, I said if anybody wants to find out where you're talking, it's on the first page of the on the website for the VTMUA, all the information is there.
Water supply subcommittee.
That's a township project.
Yeah,
now, so-
right. So we should pretty much just scratch that at this
Yeah.
point. It really doesn't pertain to us. Bylaw personnel subcommittee. That's Andy and Dave.
Okay, yeah, I'll stay right with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good. Unless somebody else wants to get into HR.
Like I said, if you guys want to jump in, people will jump off. It's up to you what you want to be, have your hands in. Anything there to report or?
Not really.
The only thing that we want to report, Dave, is basically one of the things we've discussed is how we can identify some issues with the policies for hardship.
Yes.
We've talked about that several times, and we really need to get a grasp of that, especially at the last meeting and talking about that. And I think Danell, we're having some dialogue with what we could do with similar to what the town does.
Yeah, and that's, it's one of our discussions.
That's one thing that's on our checklist. So based on, what our customers have said in the town meeting this meeting last week, or last month, that's something we need to thoroughly explore.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. But and we should pursue that. But when we do and we come up with rules and et cetera for hardship, they have to be extremely specific.
Yeah,
And they have to be,
exactly.
they have to be hard and true. Because we all know human nature. There will be people, just in every situation in life, where someone's gonna claim a hardship. And if it's ambiguous, we're gonna have to give it to them, whether it's legit or not. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen when this all comes to fruition. But chances are, unless it's like in black and white, no gray areas, that will happen. So it has to be
It's gotta be
very strict. very
properly
strict.
codified. Absolutely.
Okay. Solid Waste Subcommittee. Kristen, anything?
I think we kind of,
Almost table this kind of, sort of.
well, I did explore it last year
Right.
with,
Scott.
a little bit with Scott, a little bit, in speaking to the former council member who had investigated as part of the township council, whose name is escaping me already. No, the Murphy, Miss Murphy.
Gene Murphy.
Jane Murphy. And yeah, it doesn't seem as though a solid waste collection, bringing that into the fold of the MUA or bringing it into a town-wide collection consideration is really viable because of the number of private communities who do that in their,
Right.
lake communities.
Well, I think those private communities bid it out, right? I would assume they bid it out. So why couldn't the township bid it out for just township, non-private communities?
So just do it ourselves and,
No, like the township would do for the same way we handle, like the township handles ways like for snow, right? It would be the same kind of thing. When you would go out to bid for that service to an outside entity, it would only be those properties.
so leave the private communities out, is what you're saying.
I mean, you could do that, or you could say, I think maybe have the discussion with the private communities if they would want to be included in that, because, they might even have a lower cost for a larger volume. I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, that's what we were talking about also with the septage collection, aside from transfer station 2, and talking about that as septage collection. So since the septage collection kind of has some of the same questions about how to do stuff, how to collect waste townwide.
I like the idea, though. you brought up.
Maybe those two things. So yeah, I can explore that further. It's the short answer. Yeah, I had also sent an email or put, we had discussed it a couple meetings ago. I did sit with the Environmental Commission about a septage collection district, doing that townwide. And I think that has some merit also. So I'm happy, I don't know if that's not on the list. That's a committee that doesn't exist right now, but
Right.
to do that as well.
Combine them.
Combine them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're on there by yourself now, so should we
So-
have another person with you to kind of exchange ideas with? Anybody interested in joining, Kristen?
That subcommittee.
Huh?
Solid waste and septic collection.
Yeah, I guess you could change it to that. Paul, probably one of the things we should do once we get this back up and running again, we should have a quarterly report by each subcommittee. We've kind of got lax in that area. Think about.
All right.
So just Kristen on that one?
Anybody else want in?
There were, as we just had discussed, the septage, as I say, with the Environmental Commission, I could probably grab a commissioner from there to assist.
That's worth a shot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
sure.
It's a really good idea. Oh, you had a dialogue.
Rich? Is he there?
I'm here.
Hey, just real quick, there's like nothing that like prohibits us with like communicating with a township committee member, right?
Nope.
All right, cool, I just want to make sure.
No, that was good. That was good asking her.
I don't want to be like, yeah, we have all these meetings, and it's like, oh, we're not allowed to do that.
And I'll speak of two at the same time, the sewer service area subcommittee and transfer station PS2 upgrade subcommittee. We pretty much got our updates earlier in the meeting. I think that those two committees are basically waiting on DEP, waiting on IBank, waiting on a myriad of things to come together. So there's really not much to report there at this point in time. I think we're all kind of caught up with that.
Does someone else want to be on the sewer service area subcommittee though?
Does anybody want to be on the sewer service area subcommittee?
What does it do?
The sewer service area is, it's the area that's approved by DEP through the wastewater management plan to be allowed to be connected to a sewer system.
But what does the committee do?
So we sit in arguments with the DEP. I mean.
The interface between.
Yeah.
MUA
So
and
basically,
the
yes.
DEP?
So, yeah.
I mean, one of the things we do is we write a chart of what that committee will do. That charter will have its objectives and the two people will sit down, outline what they feel those objectives and outcomes should be and what should be the end results. So we have a charter standard that we can, I think we should all look at and do that again, is write that charter. This way we all have a clear direction. Like we have a charter for us and we have a charter. So
Hey,
maybe,
Paul, who's on that committee right now?
sir?
Who's on that committee right
On the
now?
sewer service area subcommittee,
Yeah.
just myself at this point in time.
I'll go on it.
Right.
That dealing with the DEP can be very frustrating.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and.
I get frustrated all the time.
And unfortunately for me, it's often difficult during the week for me to go to these meetings, just because of work. So,
I'm available.
well, then that's perfect, because it's, so for me, sometimes it's just, if not difficult, almost near impossible, to break away during the workday to go to these things. And, I guess Dave and I are on the to upgrade and transfer station. And like I said, that's kind of in this, in the same boat. We're waiting. So it's a waiting game right now.
If you put those two together, I'll be happy to join either one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think they kind of in a way work together anyway. I mean, so Dave and I will be on those on the PS2 and transfer station, and you and I will be on a sewer service area subcommittee. I think there's probably some interface between the two as things progress. So, I mean, we'll all be working together on these at some point in time.
Okay, sounds good.
But I like what you said, Andy, about the charter.
Yeah.
I will try to pull the charter blank back up, and there is a example we have someplace here we can use.
Yeah, if you could do that, forward it to me, it'd be great.
Action item from I have another suggestion. Sure. One of the things I guess forget to talk about is how are we going to add more customers? If we want to reduce the sewer rates in the future, Mark, and I know it's a big concern of yours, the best way we can do this is to add more customers.
Of course.
Okay? It is not a cheap process. It's millions of dollars. Of course, there's public monies there, but somehow we have to start looking at where the low hanging fruit is, where we can start getting connections. And, I think for the future, we've been saddled with a large number of gallonage that we don't use. We pump more air than we pump sewage down the road. And to reduce that, so we can reduce the total cost to our customers, we should be aggressively looking at how can we expand that? And then find out how to tie it into the financials of how we can get government money to make that expansion happen. It's a very difficult task, but I think it's one that we skirt and hide away from because it is a tough one.
Yeah, we
And
do-
just, I'm sorry, and just to give you an idea, so I'm on here, what, 5 years? When I came on, they were talking about expanding the sewer service area. There was maps, there was everything, fire engineers. 5 years later, there's still maps, they're still talking to DEP, new engineering firm, and we really haven't progressed that much. It all, everything sits there, and that's part of the problem, but I think we made some headway recently, so maybe things are looking up, but I mean, Trenton could slow things down immensely.
It's gonna get done. It's gonna get done.
It's gonna get
Yeah,
done.
I think,
We were dragging for a long time, not us, but
yep. And COVID just made it so much.
yes.
But we have corridors going down 94 of neighborhoods. Ed, I know you live
Yes.
up in one. You don't like when I say this, but sewer flows downhill quite easily. And there's connection opportunities in those neighborhoods where septic systems, and this is something we have to plan long-term. And I know Steve had a map, which he showed me, I think I have a copy of it somewhere, which it gave the estimated cost of
Yes.
what it would take to do each of these different areas.
Right, so we have the estimates for those, and I did apply for funding for the area that connects Church Street into Main Street and that whole area and going up 94, right? Because the opposite side of 94 has no access to sewer, even though it's in the existing sewer service area. So the estimate was about 1.8 million. I think connections were about like 80 or something connections estimated. And then the area that you're talking over by Mott Drive.
Yep.
So that would be in the expanded approved sewer service area.
Mhm.
Now, there were no questions from the DEP about that with regards to that. So they've already kind of, I don't want to say they approved it because there's a whole approval process, right? But they've kind of already like put their rubber stamp on that, like this looks good. So I've applied for federal funding for that, and that cost was $5 million. And I think we're looking at like 200 and something connections there. So just to be clear, because I know I want to be very clear about this. If you get federal funding, if we don't put debt to the project, if we are not paying for it, right?
Exactly.
It takes that connection fee and it reduces significantly because there's no debt added onto the establishment of the connection fee. Right, so, you're looking at no increase in connection fees if you have that money coming in to pay for that infrastructure.
So 94, the line is on the other side.
94, the line runs down here. It's not even like.
You're talking over here. I'm talking about out that way.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
There's Dairy Queen, like out that way. All those houses up in the back up there. For them to get connected, if and when, there obviously the infrastructure and the roads up there and then coming down towards 94, everything would have to cross 94, would it not, to make its way down to the force main?
Mhm.
I mean, if you go back,
Design, I'm sorry.
Am I understanding
Yep.
that there's an existing sewer line, but it's not in the middle of the road? It's on one side
It's
of the road?
behind. It's like, where Wings is?
It's behind Wings.
Wings down in the restaurant down in the hill,
Okay,
next to the pizza place, there's the pizza station.
Yeah.
And then, it's behind pizza station, behind the plumbing, the line's all the way back there. So anything on that side of 94 has to come down under 94, and all the way down to that force main, because it was put back there as opposed to down the middle of 94.
Right, it's closer to the railroad track.
yeah,
Which exponentially makes it more expensive to hook up.
this is one of the poor decisions that was inherited from years ago.
One of.
I
One
wonder
of
what
many.
directional- I wonder how much directional drilling is per linear foot.
expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, no, you wouldn't even do it. You would have to just rip up and.
Yeah, just tear it up.
Rip up and.
There's mold drilling also.
Yeah, I mean, those low pressure sewage systems like they do in, in the lake, like Lake Hopatcong. That might be a way, something that's more economical than trenching across the main highway. It could be low diameter. You could put an individual pumps in each person's house, building.
You
Instead
gotta
of,
be kidding me. Put those pumps in each person's house?
they're very small. Yeah, they're very small.
Might-
Anyways, I think the boring or the micro tunneling or, it might be more economical than trenching across, state highway.
Yeah, if they let you.
They're doing more, I call it mold drilling.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
They do it mold. It's cheaper now than it's been. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not so bad. Yeah, I mean, do we also consider the alternative of putting the collector pipe along 94 instead?
And I
Have
guess
it meet up somewhere else.
Yeah.
At one of the other pump stations and then.
So you mentioned that we had some cost estimates or some areas. Okay, I don't think I've seen that. Is that?
Yeah, we sent it around. I'll send it around again to everybody as a
Okay, I'm-
member too. So, yep,
I'll see.
put that out to everybody. It's not a problem.
so that's something I think we should, I don't know whether we put it on as a, a project, a subcommittee, but we have left this, as you said, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we're not talking about it. And I'm looking again back at the Remington and Vernick engineering financial analysis from 2016. And this tells you the same thing. And the resolution we just approved for minerals is a tremendous push in the right direction. That's 32 EDUs.
Sure.
And if you look at what Remington and Vernick's engineering financials say, all we needed to do was add 8 EDUs a year back in 2016. 2023 would not be an impactful issue, but right now it is. And then, as we say in the future, if we can expand that, we have 600,000 gallons of usage that we could use today, 625,000. We use 225,000 gallons. What's that, a little bit more?
Less than that.
Less than that. Okay, well, I don't want to underestimate. They'll call me on it. So in other words, we're not using 60% of the flow rate we have.
That we're paying for.
We're paying for it.
Pay more than Franklin. Uses more than double.
How are we doing on fixing that problem with the MUA? With the Sussex County MUA?
That would be a litigation matter, so I would recommend that we not discuss that in an open public meeting.
I agree with you.
Okay. So maybe do you want to put, the expansion of the sewers is tied in with the sewer service area expansion. So maybe we can put those two together, because really we can't do anything until it gets approved.
Correct.
For the DP.
No, but we can start putting the plan together and start establishing costs so that,
Yes.
and then the other thing is going to be is that the public's going to want to know, how much is it going to cost me if I have to hook up? And we should start thinking about those things way ahead of time so that we can make it as a soft cost as much as possible. Because if somebody today is considering they have to either put a new septic system in or connect, well, they're going to say, aha, I'd rather connect than put another septic system in.
And I think, I don't know if it's legal, feasible, but I mean, if you're in the sewer service area and our infrastructure is in place, if someone needs a new septic system, the town might be able to make some kind of rule that there's no more new ones. If you're in a sewer service area, you have to hook up. I mean, there could be a mandatory to that.
Yeah, you would make the lines mandatory. for-
They did that. They did
They
that.
did that.
They did that in Ridgewood,
They do it.
on the borderline of Ridgewood and Wyckoff, where the sewer pipe, Bergen County Sewer put the pipe up the road. And right there was still people who had septics on Goffel Road. I'm talking about, I'm sure you're familiar with it. And what they did was they just wouldn't issue any more any more septic permits.
Right, so if you needed a new one.
Perfect.
Right.
Right. If
That
it's
was what I
if it's
had
still good,
suggested
you're okay, but the
publicly
day
a
that
month
thing
ago.
goes and they all go, you have to replace, you have to hook up, it's supposed to replace it. Which is environmentally sound to begin with, let alone.
And I think that ties into with.
By
with the
attrition,
town.
you'll get
Mhm.
a whole lot
Yes.
new users.
Yep.
Yes,
Well, over attrition you may, but what do you do with people who sunk in $15,000 to $25,000 on a new septic system and they get told the following year, you gotta hook up
no,
mandatory?
I think it would be if, once your septic system is no longer a viable system and you're gonna
Okay.
have to replace
Well,
it.
that's fair.
I think you would have a grace period. I think somehow we'd have, and that's something we'd have to put on there, and you bring up a good point, Ed, is that we're gonna have a checklist of those pros and cons, and what do we do about somebody who's put one in? What's the grace period?
Yeah, or if they have an operational system that has no problems.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I mean, it would be something the town would come up and maybe MUA could help guide and steer, but I think it would be if your system's good and you might have to have it tested every once in a blue moon.
Yeah,
to make sure
well, I
that it's not make sure it's not leaking. And if it's fine, you're okay. But once it's deemed it's not a viable system anymore, you're not gonna get a permit for a new one. You're gonna have to, you will then hook up.
I think that's a good idea. But I gotta tell you, about 5 years ago, I started looking into this myself. And between the cost, the Vernon MUA sewer fees, the Sussex County MUA connection fees, and the excavation, we were looking about $25,000 to do that on our home. And it's just, it's not cheap.
No.
So, if there's a way to offset that and lower those costs, I think a lot of people will hook up.
Especially if you can do it in volume,
Yeah,
and that reduces the cost.
yep, I agree.
Are we good on subcommittees?
Anything else on the subcommittees? Or are we good?
Yeah. So we're gonna add that as a subcommittee,
Yep. Mhm.
so then we need people to put on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna make it the same as sewer service area subcommittee, but we can
Oh, okay.
change
Yeah,
that.
I thought that was a good idea,
Yeah.
Okay.
Short-term rental discussion.
So I put this on here because last time we were talking about that, and there were some individuals who, expressed serious concerns about short-term rentals that are in the condos. And not just in Great Gorge, but also in Black Creek condos. There are a number of short-term rentals in there. And they're income properties. So the concern there was, a 3-bedroom condo unit that's used as just regularly somebody's home, right? There could be, let's say, 3 people living in there. And they go to work or they come home, they're not there all day. Versus, someone who has an Airbnb, which for a 3-bedroom condo, you could probably house 15 people in there. I mean, depending on the number of beds and how you set it up, right? And that could be fully booked 90% of the year. And their concerns were that those people obviously produced more sewer flow than someone who would be right next door with a 3-bedroom condo living there year round. So we put that on as a discussion item at the request of the board.
Rich, is that something that is legal?
Rich?
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you
Yeah.
hear me? Yeah, no, so that is, Paul, that's that's the rub, really, right? Is we're governed by EDU based billing. We go off the DEP classifications. We're talking residential, and we have 3 known types of identified classes, 1, 2, or 3 and above bedrooms. So in order to implement an EDU based classification for a short-term rental, I'd really have to work with Steve and see if we can come up with something that makes sense. But it's going to be it's going to be tricky because, again, the only argument that I think wouldn't work would be to say all short-term rentals are classified as at 1 EDU. In other words, whether it's a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, it's going to be considered to be a 3-bedroom full EDU. But if you have a 3-bedroom or larger residential dwelling that's a short-term rental, I don't know what EDU rate or class we would call it and how you would measure that. What would it be based on? So we'd have to, Steve and I can talk about that and go through the DEP regs, but there are no currently identified classes of short-term rental properties.
There's a concern I have here is that today the town already charges for STR short-term rentals. There's an additional tax that's on them. They have to register.
Yeah.
So this is like a double dip on an STR in some ways, I think. Or do
Well, I
we
would-
do it through, or do we do it through the town and say, if on top of that, you have an additional rate increase because of sewage flow?
Yeah, so just to be clear, so the township charges hotel occupancy tax
Exactly.
on short-term rentals. So they're treated, a short-term rental is treated the same way as a hotel.
Okay,
So it's not like a specific short-term rental tax. It's treated the same way as a hotel.
so, yeah, because if you're a short-term rental, say in Highland Lakes versus a short-term rental in Great Gorge would be different because you're using the sewer system in Great Gorge, where in Highland Lakes, you're not.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
You know, if I can weigh in on this a little bit. The short-term rental EDU discussion, I get it, you know, they may be not occupied for an entire year, only part of the year. But when you purchase a unit and you're doing it for investment purposes, you know, all the costs come along with that. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for that. I mean, if the house next door has a 3-bedroom unit and they're paying their full share of EDUs, the investment property next door to it, which has the same configuration, ought to pay the same rate. That's just my personal opinion.
Good valid point.
Yeah.
Part of home ownership and investment property management.
It strikes me from a previous discussion that with respect to Minerals Hotel, some kind of a different formula to calculate EDUs was applied rather than this room has 1 bedroom, so it gets 1/2 EDU. Because it's a hotel, there's some other formula. Would not such a formula be useful with respect to short-term rentals, which are taxed as if they were a hotel? Call them a hotel rather than a private residence, and your problem is solved.
I think that's what we would need to like dive more into, like how that would work.
We'd have to find out.
Well, I'm wondering if legally that is the solution to the problem.
So just looking back at the calc that Steve did for the earlier resolution for minerals, a hotel is for 3 bedrooms is the same 1 EDU as a 3-bedroom home would be. So whether it's a hotel or a home,
It's still,
it's still one EDU. So
So why should it be different?
I agree.
Why should it be different?
Yeah.
The answer was already stated, because it's a commercial income producing property, and as such, it is treated different than a residence,
Well, yeah,
because it is
Well,
different than a
no, but
residence.
the hotel.
In the next month, it could be a residence.
Pardon me?
And in the following month, if it gets sold, it could be a residence.
At which time you change.
All right, and how many people are gonna have a residence are gonna
If
say,
it
well, I really
changes
have
from
a
hotel
short-term
to
rental.
residence or the other way around,
Well,
you
I have-
adjust accordingly.
If a
I have-
hotel is charged EDUs the same way as a house is,
Right,
we definitely can't go out on a limb and make the short-term rentals different.
no,
That's
not at all.
that's really pushing the envelope then.
Yeah, I mean, I own a house, so I'm gonna call it now a short-term rental, and I'll rent it to my wife, and I'll pay a different EDU rate because I'm a short-term rental.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
I guess the only reason we say this, Ed, is because some of these short-term rental places, if it's say a 1-bedroom and all of a sudden they have 8 people there. And there are some of those that do say in their advertisement, sleeps 8.
Hey, comes with investment property management,
Yeah,
the good and the bad.
I don't think we can go start counting, beds.
no.
No. We'll be counting sleeping bags next.
The one thing
That's true.
we could consider is a different EDU count for hotels. But we're just saying.
Short term. I mean, you could put a
Hotel,
surcharge.
yeah, short term being the equivalent of a hotel,
Right.
but
I mean, could you say something to the nature of, say, a surcharge? If you're a registered short-term rental, there's an additional surcharge of, it's too messy.
I don't think it's that because it's then you're.
Too complicated.
basis.
Yeah, there's no base. It's very hard. I get it.
Anything else on this?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Senior and veteran discounts.
This was just another thing that came up from the last meeting.
Has there been?
I'm for it.
Yeah,
What's the town's policy for senior discounts and veterans?
It's like a state policy for tax discounts.
So the state and if we ran something similar to the state policies for veterans and senior citizens with an income issue, that would be something we'd have to look at.
Yeah, the state policy on senior tax discounts is a senior freeze, and your income has to be below a certain level. I forget what that number
Exactly.
is.
Yeah, there's.
We have to fill out forms and stuff like that. So we wouldn't do that as the MUA. I would get that information from the tax collector.
Right.
Right.
so you're saying that,
But I think the question too is, there are some individuals who may be seniors, but they do not live in the condos.
Right.
They just own property in the condos and it's an income property.
Exactly. I mean, we had one couple here, they own 4 and they're all rentals. And does that really constitute that they should get a
No.
discount for all?
There were also.
Yeah.
Hell no.
has to be a primary residence.
Yes.
Primary residents only.
It's not your primary residence. It can't be considered.
And how do you verify that?
Right, so that would be something that we would have to think about, how we would verify that it's a primary
I mean,
residence.
if you live,
A utility bill that's not the MUA and you're,
10 units.
With respect, I am lost. I have heard over and over here how we have to treat all users alike. And now we're talking about setting aside a preferred class of people who get better treatment because we happen to find their situation sympathetic or more admirable. Either we treat all users alike or we don't. But I don't want to say because you happen to be a senior or a veteran, we're going to treat you better than your neighbor who isn't. And I happen to be both a senior and a veteran. Maybe I should be treated better for that, but then don't tell me we treat all our users alike because we have preferred users and non-preferred users.
there are other authorities that do. this type of-
I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
there
can
are,
start-
but we're rule bound that we have to treat everybody the same, except when we elect not to because the state doesn't in this instance, or some other group doesn't in that instance.
But we,
Doesn't work for me.
but we had some of those attributes in our tax bases now.
Yes, we do.
Okay, and what I heard from, and this is just a work committee discussion, and that's from to explore this, is that what is, if somebody has a financial hardship, and I feel for them, I really do feel for them, is that if they file the proper paperwork and it's within state guidelines, is it something we should explore? I didn't say do it.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at. And I get from you is that, well, yes, you're a senior citizen, but your income levels may not establish you to be within that range of getting assistance.
So if I were a poorer senior citizen, the MUA would treat me better. But that doesn't work for me.
The township does that though. Every
That
town in
doesn't
the
work
state
for
of
me
New-
either.
Well, every town in the state of New Jersey does it, but I think Rich were you gonna say something?
Yes, I was. We're constrained by the law in terms of what exemptions we can give and what exemptions we can't give.
Exactly.
Whether it's taxing or whether it's a discount on sewer rates, that is set forth in the statutes under 4014B as to which classes of residents within the municipality, within the sewer service area are or may be entitled to a discount. So this is if you recall back for those of you who were on the board during the VFW conversation, we had the same conversation then. It's like, yes, we're sympathetic. You guys are great organization. We understand all that, but we can't just classify you give you a break because you're this noble organization. We have to follow the statutory criteria that's established by the laws of the state of New Jersey. So we can give breaks for over 65 blind and disabled veterans as well. And I can send out a memo on that. But in terms of, and I thought that's all we were talking about. To the extent we're talking about a veteran in general who, has an income level that may be below a certain threshold, then we need to really look closely at the statutes to make sure that we are not running afoul of them. And I can
Can you give me the citation for that so I can look it up myself?
Yeah, I'm working off my phone here tonight, Mark, but I'll certainly send that out via tomorrow in a memo to everybody.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so if you could, Rich, if you forward that to everyone.
Yep. I'll do that.
I think reading it and getting a better understanding of it will lead to a discussion based on having a little more knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Make our decisions and express ourselves a little bit better.
Or we can discuss it based on fact rather than emotion.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. Anybody have anything else on that topic? Say. Nope. Okay, so then let's make a motion to open the public for items not on the agenda. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to open the meeting to the public.
I'll
for
second
items
it.
not- Okay, we're good to go.
All in favor?
Aye.
With nobody here, I don't see anybody raising their, hold on. Jessica Palladini, I have.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Jesse.
Hi. I just want to say, first of all, that Mr. Bauer is a breath of fresh air. Thank you. He really, really comes up with some very, very good comments. I have a couple of things and I scribbled, so I hope I can see what I wrote here. As you know, I've been saying for nearly a decade to charge people just what they use. And I keep hearing, we can't. I keep hearing how expensive it would be. But the truth is that no one has investigated those costs. No one has put in RFPs to find out what those costs are. So in reality, you don't know what those costs are. And you could simply pass those costs on to the users. I would think users would rather pay a one-time fee and then have fair and equitable user fees from that point on. Then there's also the fact that you could use United Water's meters. They've already offered that. And that's not anything that I recall anyone even investigating. So let me go on to, with regard to a senior or veterans discount, you are really, really going down a slippery slope with that one. Donnell said that there are other authorities that do it. I'd frankly like to know who those authorities are so that I could look into it myself. But why then wouldn't I, as a senior, get a discount on my electric bill, on my oil bill? It's just not done. The town doesn't do it for anything. I don't know of anyone who gives discounts for seniors and veterans. And yeah, a totally disabled veteran, somebody who's really cash strapped and having difficulty, maybe on a one-time case-by-case basis. There are county programs that give money for utilities and that sort of thing.
but I don't think that that's something that you should get into at all. With regard to the question of whether or not you charge businesses more than you do residentials, everybody charges businesses more. Telephone rates, there are business rates and there are residential rates. The land use board charges differently. The tax office, the tax assessor, if you have business property, you pay at a different rate than you do for residential. So I'm in agreement with Mr. Bauer on that one too. There's no reason why you can't charge those short-term rentals and so on, different rates. And I think I just have one more thing. Maybe not. Hang on, please, 1 second. I'm sorry. No, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to say for tonight. I know you're trying. I know you're talking about it, but I really think it's high time you start charging users for what they use, not just random bedroom counts or whatever. Maybe that was okay as a startup. I don't even think it was okay as a startup. Back then, I thought it was a bad idea. But I'm telling you, all of your problems are going to go away if you just start charging people for what they use and not going into their homes and investigating whether this is a bedroom or that's a bedroom. I think you're trying, but really it's high time, folks. Somewhere you're going to have to bite the bullet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I don't have anybody else raising their hand.
Okay. Seeing nobody else from the public, I make a motion to close the meeting to the public for items not on the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioners' comments. Kristen,
I have no comments this evening.
Just, I'm looking forward to seeing what the statutes say with regards to the discounts and relief, so to speak. Hopefully, we'll be able to do something. You might be muted.
Ed?
Ed, are you muted?
I don't think I'm muted now.
Okay, you're good.
I don't have any additional comments other than what I made this evening. Thank you.
Bauer?
Yeah, I also look forward to seeing the statute, and particularly I would like to get a deeper legalistic handle on the bounds and the exceptions to the apparent requirement that we treat all users the same. I had previously commented from the gallery in a public session that I felt our concept of treating all users the same was based on bad assumptions. And I still believe that to be so. And so having a serious handle on exactly how treating all users the same applies in practice and in the real world, I think will be enormously helpful to the MUA moving forward. Perhaps past mistakes can actually be addressed and rectified if we find that treating all users the same as we believe we've been doing in the past has been poorly thought through. So I look forward to future change, I hope.
Very good.
Thank you.
Andy?
Well, first of all, again, Mr. Barrow, welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Appreciate the input and sharing of different ideas and exploring different ways of looking at things.
I appreciate it. I hope to be constructive and not just a troublemaker.
Hey, we all have to help, and that's bringing solutions on board. So
It's kind of hard to not be one without being the other at times, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The other thing I have on my list here is scheduling the next line walk. Danelle, so we should put that on the,
We were gonna do it later this month.
is it,
I was gonna have Jackie reach out to the railroad company.
okay, so it is this month, but, well, it's getting close to.
I know,
Maybe we could do it first part of
June, at
June.
the beginning of June, that's fine.
Yeah.
Try up.
Dave, for your understanding, Mr. Bauer, is that we do a line walk from pump station 2 down to the end to inspect the line. It's one of the areas that we take in the engineer, 2 of the operators and Howie, and we make sure that the line looks good. There's no leakage, that we don't see anything. It's just a visual. It's a 2-mile walk. And one of the other things I did when I first came on is actually visit all the pump stations and all of the lift stations. And I just did it again just last month. So anybody ever wants to go, Ed, I encourage you to, is to sit down and get to understand what the pubs do.
If we can find a mutually convenient time, I'm in.
Okay?
Let's
Sounds
do
good to me.
I mean, and honestly, if you get in touch with Donnell, you know, find out when the guys are doing the rounds, you might even be able just to go at any given day during the week. If the guys are hitting each station, you can see what they do and what's going on, and it doesn't have to be a coordinated effort with everybody going. You could just, you know.
Right.
That's my comments for today.
And, okay, I'd also like to welcome Mark aboard. I was gonna give you a ceremonial bottle of Excedrin, but I forgot it.
Won't go to waste.
It's not in the budget.
Oh,
That would be a gift from me. Then there's rules about accepting gifts, so maybe not, I got it.
As long as it's less than $25.
It'll be the small bottle, ask.
It was the law.
Travel bottle. You know, things were said at the last meeting, as well as today, in regard to the metering. I agree that that would be the fairest way to do things. And as we discussed earlier in tonight's meeting, it is something that we have begun to do a little exploratory on. It is something that if we ever went down that road, it would be up to the residents to probably pay for the meter installation. If that's the route they wanted to go, you know, it would have to be all or nothing. You're either gonna do it or you're not gonna do it, but because it will be expensive, and the MUA doesn't have liquid funds to just go do something like that. I am not opposed to that in the future, but just like everything else, we have to explore it deeply, get all the information we can, get legit prices. You know, estimates are good in the beginning, but if we decide at some point in time, let's really look into this, then we get an RFP, see what something like that would cost. I do want to explore this to the nth degree, because if we can do it, I think it would be definitely the fairest way to go about it, but it's going to be expensive. So let's see what the future brings, what information comes forward, and then we could see what we have to work with at that point in time. Right now it's a thought, and let it germinate and see what we come up with. And all of these things that we're talking about, the meters, potential, you know, discounts for hardships or whatever. These are discussions. It's all exploratory amongst ourselves, bouncing ideas around, seeing how we can help people if we can. None of these are even close to policy at this point in time. We could talk about 20 things and 19 of them may never happen because we decide it's not the right thing to do. But I don't think that it not being the right thing to do doesn't mean we shouldn't keep bringing up new ideas. You throw 20 things against the wall, and if one of them sticks and it's a good thing, that then we're getting something done here. So just because we talk about it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. But we don't know until we look into it, whether it's feasible or not. And that's it for me.
Motion to close.
Make a motion to close. Andy? made
I make a motion to
I'll
close.
Second that.
I'll second it.
Everybody seconds it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.